What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Coasters in Perspective podcast. Today, I would love to talk about my experience at the Ocean City Boardwalk and Ocean City in general. I went to Ocean City probably a few days ago, and I hit up Jolly Rodger at the pier, Jolly Rodger at 30th, and Trimper's Rides. All of these parks in general have a decent coaster collection, but some of them are pretty abysmal. Today I would love to talk about my experience at those parks. So yeah, buckle in. Now, at first, I want to talk about the first park I went to, which was Jolly Rodger at the 30th. Now, if you don't know what Jolly Rodger is a small regional amusement park, mostly just in Ocean City though. But, it's a small paper ride park. They had four credits there. They had, your classic E&F Myler kiddie coaster called Sea Serpent. And they also had a wacky worm, your classic wacky worm. Then they had a pretty rare ride model called a Zero Flitzer called Barracuda. This is kind of like a Schwarzkopf Jetstar, but on a much smaller scale. No restraint. And they also had another pretty rare coaster model called the Wildcat, which is actually a Schwarzkopf Wildcat. And it was easily the best coaster there. In my opinion, it was the best coaster in Ocean City, and honestly, I would take that opinion with a grain of salt since there isn't much competition. But it was fun. It was very surprisingly smooth for a portable, kind of fair roller coaster type. I really liked it. I had a lot of fun on it. I went looking for airtime. I couldn't find any airtime on it. I always heard that those models had airtime, but not really. A pretty sizable, decent drop, and a decently long ride. I thought it was a pretty fun ride in general. The staff, I loved the staff. Like, I got on their E&F Myler kiddie coaster, and they were like, I was the only one. The park was pretty much dead. Everything was a walk-on. And I got on it, and they were like, yes, in any row you want, film, I don't care. Yeah, the staff was pretty laid back, and it was a fun time. And I went with my family, so that was a fun time. And so Jolly Rodger, it was cool. They had a decent flat ride collection, lots of kiddie rides, but I would definitely compare this ride. It was kind of like a fair. That's what it felt like. And it kind of had this pirate theme. They also had a pretty sizable water park called Splash Mountain. I know, I wonder where they got that name from. Which they also had, they actually did have a water coaster there, which looked pretty cool. But unfortunately, I never got the chance to visit Splash Mountain. But it looked like a pretty fun water park. The park in general, it was nice. It was decent. It was decently well kept. And one thing that was cool, the midways weren't paved. They just had it was pretty much gravel. So that kind of felt like you were in a fair. They had this kind of little circus show, which I thought was really cool. So it was a fun time. And so that's pretty much my thoughts on Jolly Rodger at the 30th. And in Ocean City, that's what they're calling it. And there's one other Jolly Rodger, and this is on the famous Ocean City Boardwalk. There's a few things I want to talk about on the Ocean City Boardwalk, but I'm going to start with Jolly Rodger at the pier. I didn't spend too much time here. I just went through their one credit called Looping Star. What's the model? I'm just going to say Looping Star. It has that one circular loop, and it's very much criticized for its being rough and janky, and I will not deny that claim. I think that had to be the worst coaster I've ever been on. Now let me just explain. So my first ride on it, I went in the back row. So, even the lift hill was rough. So on the first drop, it's really badly profiled. It's not very steep, but it's like you go into that descent really quick. So it actually ran 3 cars, 2 rows. And so it has classic over-the-shoulder restraints, OTSRs, But in that first drop, you get a nice scenic. One of the few pros of this ride is to get a really good view of the Atlantic Ocean because it's right on the boardwalk, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, and so the first drop was really oddly profiled. So I was in the back row, you had the classic over-the-shoulder restraints, as I said, and you get standing ejector airtime. This was definitely the biggest pro of the ride. You absolutely fly into that over-the-shoulder restraint, and at a certain point, it was actually really uncomfortable. It really kind of hurt my neck, but it was crazy. For a brief moment, you get a great pop of ejector airtime. And after that, I would probably compare the ride to dirt. So you go into this turn. I mean, it's okay. You definitely do get some headbanging. And then the signature element, which is the loop. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't forceful. It was kind of just like, it was just there. And yeah, that was all right. And then the next turn is easily the worst elements on the ride, and that is this turn into the helix. And let me just say, if I rode this more times, I swear I would have gotten a concussion. So I wasn't prepared for this. And so right into that turn, I probably banged my head around 3 times right into that restraint. It was awful. And then pretty much you do forceless helix, some more head banging, then come into a super sudden stop in the brakes. I rode it twice, just to see if I could prepare for it and find any redeeming factors. The second time I rode it, it was in the front, and it was probably even worse. I mean, you didn't get that airtime on the first drop, but it was worse. And also the staff wasn't very nice. I was only there for probably, I want to say 15 minutes, and then I just booked because they didn't have many rides there that were worth riding. We were only at the boardwalk for a few hours, so yeah. And then the next park I want to talk about is probably my was probably my favorite park while we were there, and that was Trimper's Rides. Now, I just want to say that Trimper's Rides surprised me a lot. All of their rides are very well kept. Classic paper ride system. You get like a card, you load money onto it. And yeah, it was a fun time. They had some great flat rides. You had your classic Himalayan, which I want to talk about before I talk about their main attraction. So that Himalayan that they had, pretty much just goes in a circle. It had this like double down element going down. It was going so fast that I actually got some airtime going over it. I got a weak pop of floater each time, but it was crazy. Crushing laterals with some airtime extend. It was probably one of my highlights of the day and highlights of my trip in general. It was really fun, and I was riding with my brother, so I kind of crushed him there. So yeah, and then they also had a Zamperla Enterprise. If you've ever heard of Supergirl Starflyer at Six Flags New England, it's the same thing, and that was really fun. It pretty much went upside down, and yeah, it was really fun. It was pretty forceful. It was right next to their staple roller coaster in Ocean City, which you can see for a while. Their classic Vekoma boomerang called Tidal Wave, which I'll get into. But I was the only one on the train on the ride, and because pretty much it was a pretty dead day at the time. And so, yeah, and the Vekoma Boomerang went really close to the Vekoma Boomerang. It was kind of like in the Cobra Roll, and we went right by it, and it was pretty cool to see. But yeah, I want to get into Tidal Wave a bit, their classic Vekoma Boomerang. This was my first Vekoma Boomerang, and I didn't have too high expectations for it. It used the aero trains. I knew the loop looks forceful in the back, but I didn't have too high expectations going into it. And so I pretty much got on the train. I only got one ride on it for a reason. It was not the best ride I've been on. I definitely would prefer that Schwarzkopf Wildcat over this. It was definitely rough. That Cobra Roll kind of got to me. I rode it in near the front, in the second row. It was definitely forceful. That backwards when you're going backwards into that loop, yeah, that was definitely a really forceful element. But other than that, nothing to go home about. Just a classic Vekoma boomerang. And, yeah, tidal wave, I mean, not really a hit for me. I didn't really enjoy it that much. And it was my 40th credit, so I mean, yeah, I'll remember it. Maybe I'll ride it again when I go. Maybe I won't if I go again. My grandparents live in Maryland, so we're definitely gonna go again. But the highlight of my trip there was on the boardwalk, was this classic haunted house right on the boardwalk. It wasn't in Jolly Roger, it wasn't in Trimpers, it was just on the boardwalk. And the Ocean City boardwalk, it has so much things, like the world famous Thrasher fries and the Ripley's Believe It or Not. And we didn't do that this time, but I've done it before. It's very cool. Definitely go check that out if you're in the area. But the haunted house while we were there it cost $6, worth every single penny. It was amazing. I rode it with my mom and my brother. We loved it. We absolutely loved it. It was like your classic, dark ride on the little track. It utilized some amazing practical sets. It was definitely, they had a freaking live actor in there. And she went up to my mom and went like, la 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 la, while we were in like the clown section. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Anyway, so more things about the haunted house. It was an absolute amazing attraction. Some of my probably favorite effects in the haunted house was you went through this like spiraling tunnel thing, and there was this clown. And let me just say, I hate clowns, so this scared the hell out of me. This clown in this chair, he was like rocking back and forth, I had the classic laugh, and like these people ahead being like sawed in half, and it was pretty crazy. Some others were, so like the finale of the ride was, so the whole ride, you kind of like go up, and then you go up this one slope, for like where the zombies are and all these things, and zombies like animatronics reach out and get you, and there's a bunch of strobe lights, But the finale of this ride, after you're going above, in like outside for a bit, in like the second floor before going back in, you go down this little slope, and ahead is like this guy who like hung himself, and he's like, and you kind of just go down the slope. And while you're doing this, your car is like kind of rocking side to side. And another thing, probably the third highlight of the ride, was you went through this really cool tunnel. It was like all rocks, and then your car starts like rocking side to side, and like above, like ahead is this train, and it's like train sounds like a train is about to hit you. And while you're doing this, your car is rocking side to side. So I thought that was really cool. And so yeah, that was pretty much the highlight of my the boardwalk for me, and probably the whole thing for me. Yeah, I would say it scared me. I loved the guy who was working. He was like, "Don't pee your pants." So yeah, that was pretty cool. And actually, some interesting things is history about this ride. That it's been here since 1968 at the boardwalk, and it hasn't changed a bit since then. Besides some minor tune-ups and some special effects changes. And another really cool thing is at night, they have up to 5 live actors in there. So some cool things that the guy mentioned, they have Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason, and the one guy they had in there was the Scream guy. And yeah, that was, the Scream mask and everything. So I thought that was really cool. I'd love to come do it at night, maybe not, because I'm kind of a scaredy cat when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I don't know, I digress. But yeah, it was definitely a great attraction. If you're in the area, you have to come check it out. Now about the food, it's your classic boardwalk food, hamburgers, fries. But another thing is the world famous Thrasher fries. Now, those Thrasher fries were addictive, to say the least. Sorry if I'm talking fast, but I don't know. So, the Thrasher fries, it's like world famous. It's been there for a while, and their main thing is no ketchup, and the main thing is vinegar. So I'm a big ketchup guy. I love it with my fries, but I asked for ketchup, and they're like, "Excuse me," like they said that as if they got offended, and so. But the main thing is vinegar, so I tried some vinegar, and I loved it. I loved it with vinegar. The fries were absolutely amazing. I'm guessing it was probably 90% actual fry, 10% potato. Get those mixed up sometimes, but yeah. But it was still great. I had some heartburn after that. I got a large fry. It was like a bucket, and yeah, and I also got their classic lemonade. But yeah, and so I would probably say the best coaster for me was Wildcat at Jolly Roger at the 30th. The best flat ride for me was the close second is Himalayan, but probably say the Enterprise at Trippers Rides. And the best coaster for me, actually I already said coaster, but the best ride in general had to be the Haunted House. I loved it. Yeah, it was a great experience being at the boardwalk. Now, I think this is where I'm going to end off this podcast episode. I know it's more of like a shorter podcast, but I haven't posted a podcast in a while, and I'm really sorry for that. I've been on vacation for a while with my family, and it was hard enough trying to fit in videos, consistent videos on my channel, but I just didn't have the time for a podcast like this. And I'm recording this at around 10 p.m. at night. So after we did this, and we're leaving tomorrow. So I'm getting home, getting back to a routine. So expect more daily uploads from then. Though I am going to summer camp after this, so that'll be a bit harder to do. But yeah, so I'm going to tennis camp. But yeah, so yeah, this is where I'm gonna end the podcast off. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you thought of the podcast. If you listened to it, if you didn't listen to it, it's probably only going to get like 40 views, but I don't care. Yeah, and I'm hoping to have some future guests on the podcast. Maybe soon, maybe not. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time here on Coasters in Perspective. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.